Corey Corpodian is the founder of Unleash Success, or should I say Dr. Corey Corpodian, because he's also a working orthodontist. And I've had several consulting clients come on and ask me, how do you sell to doctors? Alex, how do you sell to doctors? What's the best way to sell to the medical profession? Huh? Can you tell me? Can you tell me? That's how they always talk to. Now, sometimes they have a much higher voice. You know, it's like, Alex, can you tell me how to sell to doctors? You know, and sometimes their voices are so low, you know, I can barely understand it. You know, it's like, it's all in the sub, you know, like. See, you couldn't even hear that because it's down in the lower register. So here's the webinar that we did with Dr. Corpodian, and what I wanted to focus on is how to sell to doctors. How do you actually get into an office and talk to a doctor, specifically a dentist? And one of the big takeaways from this was cold email is probably not the best way to do it. If you want to know the best way, keep watching. Let's jump into it.
Thanks for having me on, guys. And yeah, cold email really doesn't work well with me if you're trying to sell me something. And definitely have a lot of experience being sold to as an orthodontist for sure. I find that, one of the biggest things in dentistry is you got to know who your audience is, just like any other kind of sales. Doctors are really entrepreneurial. They're the businessman. You tell them you're going to be able to save them 20%. You're going to be able to help them make more money. They're all ears. But there's a lot of other doctors out there that are more about what's the best care for my patient? What's the best value? I don't care that it costs an extra $10 for this burr, for this crown. I want the best for my patient. So I think to start first, before you even go in there, you got to know who you're approaching. You got to know what kind of person they are or get to know them. I find that a lot of times people come in and they might have a pamphlet, something that they show you and they're like all excited about, and then they disappear. But you got to realize we get hit up every single day by tons of different people via email, mail, via in person. And I think the biggest thing is that these people tend to come into the office sometimes every couple of weeks or every month. Hey, I want some of your time. Let me bring something to you. And it's kind of that law of reciprocation, right? So people, give you something. You're like, all right, listen, I really appreciate you doing that for me. I'll give you 15 minutes of my time, because you got to realize doctor's time is really valuable. Time equals money, right?
I think it's interesting how that changes per industry too, because I feel like me and you met via cold email to be on your podcast, right? So it's like you answer a cold email there and you're ignoring cold emails that are pitching you dental stuff.
Oh yeah. Well, it's totally by industry. You got to realize, like, most of the time people who come in to talk to me about something in my industry, they think that they know a lot. And I had this happen last weekend where this girl went to a class, a 2-day course, saw some cases, and thought that literally this appliance for orthodontics was God's gift to man. And I'm like, oh yeah, like, what's the basic? She's like, you got to try it. It'll change your life. It'll change your practice. It'll change everything about your everything. You'll make so much more money. Patients love it. And I ended up looking it up afterwards. I didn't understand the name she said. I had seen it years ago, and it's the same appliance, just, with a new name and a slightly different design. And she's trying to tell me how it's going to change my life. And I'm like, I've been doing this for 10, 15 years. I know what's going on. And you saw a 2-day course. So I think also, like, we get hit with just so much garbage.
There's a lot of MLMs. There's a lot of cold email courses, not even just marketing courses that say go to doctors.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, doctors have money and everybody knows that, right? So everybody's like, okay, let me go to somebody who can afford to pay for this. And I'll tell you right now, there are so many different types of doctors out there. Like, I have a friend who has a multi-million-dollar practice, does not spend any money on advertising. And then I've got other doctors who maybe make, $500,000 to $1 million, and they're spending $3,000 to $4,000 on pay-per-click ads. And then I even know guys who spend $20,000 a month just on advertising, just to get people into their door. So you got a huge range.
So what have you seen? Because you're buying all this stuff that people are selling, whether you're buying it from that specific salesperson or whatever, like you've got all the dental guards and, like, I don't even know what you're buying. So how are these people finding you, or like, how do you go about hiring? What's your not your ideal sales process, but what's been the most effective process for selling to you?
So me particularly, I think that you have to build a relationship. And for me, I'm skeptical of a lot of people. I spent years studying this, lots of time and effort, understanding everything that's out there in the industry. And so when people come to me with new products or new ideas or new this or whatever, I'm like, you know what? I'm skeptical of it. So you got to build my trust. For me, the best thing is, and I've got guys who do this all the time. I'll tell you, I use a clear bracket. We switch clear brackets in all of our offices from one company to a different company. And the guy had come in 6 months in a row, every single month. Sometimes he just stopped by. Hey, I was just in the neighborhood, wanted to say hi. Like, I'm pretty sure he wasn't in the neighborhood. He specifically drove to my office, right? This is the kind of effort you got to make. And, he brought lunch one time. He offered to give us all CE credit. So let me teach you about the brackets. I'll give you CE credit.
What's CE?
CE, continuing education. So
Cool.
we need 50 continuing education, different for dental assistants, but everybody in the field needs these courses. He's like, listen, if you give me an hour of your time, I'll buy you lunch, I'll teach you about the brackets, and I'll give you one credit for free. Like, value, value, value. And I'm okay, sure. So he comes in. I'm like, hey, listen, like, this is probably the 5th, 6th month that he's been coming in talking to me about these brackets. I was like, all right, I'm really glad you brought this up. I've got my manager here with me. We're going to sit down and talk about it. Within 2 months, we had switched over completely to brackets. And you're talking about these brackets probably run you $200 a case, So it's like, that's to them, right? We're paying them $200 for each set. If I do one of those every couple of days, that's $200. And now I'm switching over all of my brackets to that bracket maker because he put in the effort. And then I got other people, though, that come in. They don't even do anything like that. They come in, they leave a card. Hey, give us a call. Like, guys, I'm so busy. I'll forget it if I even remember that I have it.
Well, it's interesting because most of the stuff you buy is, it's stuff that a lot of different production companies, a lot of different people can be making this. So it's interesting you're deciding based on relationships, right? Because it's not like someone's going to sell you a bad bridge or whatever. Like it's not
Right.
going to be horrible.
Well, so there's different quality, right? Once you
Mhm.
meet the quality standard, it's based on relationship. The doctors aren't going to be like, oh, sorry, we made a bad bridge. They'll just tell you we need to remake it. But they might do a bad job. And in which case, we've switched labs before. Like, hey, guys, we'll give you another chance, maybe even a third one. But if you don't step up to this quality of standard, sorry, we're going to switch gears. Yeah, so that happens.
What about
sometimes.
something that's less dependent on the quality? So, for instance, like marketing services or pay per click or anything like that.
Well, I mean, it's still quality. It's not, it's like, what are my results? And, some marketing services like SEO, the guys will come in, want to do SEO, and they'll
I love the
say,
way you said SEO, by the way. I say the same thing to my consulting clients. It's like, call yourself anything except SEO, please.
yeah, well, and then they also will tell you, well, it takes 6 months. And like, I know that I've done some research into it. So like, how can you show me that I'm going to get good results? So it's something like pay per click. If you can show me that you've done it for other clients, or you want to give me a free trial or something where it's like, hey, listen, I'll show you how well I can do this for you. When you start getting patients, then we'll start charging you every month.
So what I'm hearing then is the ideal sales cycle would be you keep coming to the office over and over again. You're pitching the marketing service. You're walking into the office maybe with a sandwich. Who are you talking to sell your free trial of pay per click to?
Dude, that is a great question because you got to realize the doctor is probably the the third or the fourth person that you're going to interact with before, like, as you're walking through the door. First person, front desk, right? And some front desk people, not the most happy people in the world. You think they would be, but they're also like the guard dog, They're like, oh, I see you coming a mile away with that, the donuts and everything. Doctor doesn't have time. I'll literally have the front desk be like, just tell them I'm busy. And like, I won't come out for 15 minutes until they leave. But we're so busy, we can't give everybody time, unfortunately. But sometimes people, like, they don't do it the right way. So you got to make sure you sweet talk the front desk person, receptionist. You might then go to the assistant or office manager, kind of depending on who's available. And if you get to the office manager, that's a good jump because the assistant, they might not have everything, but they're kind of like, hey, what's going on? Let me see if I can help. Because the assistants will talk to the doctor a lot. They're like, oh, I heard about this. Can we try this? They're the person who helps the doctor funnel everything.
Well, what have you seen? So let's do it step by step then. What have you seen to get past that initial first, the front desk to the assistant jump seems like a pretty big one.
Well, it is. It's just about, you got to have a smile on your face. You got to be happy, offer something of value. And I think that, sometimes people brush off the first person because they're seemingly unimportant. And you don't realize by doing that it creates this negative air about it and they'll screw you before you even get in the door, really. So I think just being friendly. Hi, how are you doing today? Listen, I'm here with this company. I'm just trying to get a moment of the doctor's time. I'd love to be able to talk to him about this. is now a good time? If now is not a good time, is there another time that I could come back? And if you're just nice to them, honestly, I think compliments work really well. Not like ingenuine compliments like, oh my God, I love your eyes. Like that's, it's not going to work out too well. But if you're like, wow, like this office is so great. I love the organization of the front desk, and this is, really good. This is such a beautiful area. Do you do this? And, they'll take it as a compliment, whatever you want to say.
It is a compliment because you're not talking about their eyes. Like you just said, you're like, all right, what does the assistant do here? They're probably cleaning, they're probably organizing stuff. And you're talking about that specific thing that they do. Of course, they're going to find value in that.
Exactly. And so just by saying simple things like that, which like I say, it's simple, but people don't do it and they get denied right away. They come in like, oh, I've got to talk to the doctor. Like, okay, well, who are you? First of all, let's slow down and realize that once you get past that front desk, that's a big step. And then you might go to the office manager or the assistant, one of the two. It's just kind of who's available sometimes. And it might be the office manager. And then the office manager, they're well aware of what's going on financially within the office. A lot of times they're well aware of decisions and products that we use. And so you got to make sure that you're kind of doing the same thing. You're super friendly. And that's where you want to be able to add value. Like, listen, I brought these cookies for you guys, and go ahead, have them. But I'd like to come back, maybe sit down with you guys for 30 minutes. I could bring you lunch if you guys want, if you have that time. You can learn. And like that one guy did, he offered to give us a continuing education course for free. So that was like win, win, win.
Dude, all right. So how much of the bribing is food?
A lot. It's a lot of food. Like pretty much everybody brings food because everybody loves food. It's like make people happy. That's cookies. I wouldn't say like a gift basket. It's always food. It's always something. Cookies, donuts, lunch. But it's just like, hey, I'm here, and it gives people a reason to come by. And I've seen other people just leave cards. Oh, here's a stack of my cards in case you want to refer us to, this oral surgeon or endodontist. Like, okay, I don't remember that. But I remember the guy who brings freaking donuts every Wednesday on the first of the month for 3 months. Oh, there's Joe. What's up, Joe? How's it going? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. By the way, guys, this is why I don't recommend selling to doctors. That sounds like so much work.
So it is a lot of work, but I think the reason that people go after doctors a lot is because of the amount of money that we have to spend. Like a lifetime patient for general dentistry, maybe $3,000, even $15,000 over the course of their life. So if you were able to get that person in and say, I pay you, $100 per patient that you're able to bring me roughly, then now it's $3,000 to $15,000. For orthodontics, our average case is $4,500 to $5,500. For braces, sometimes Invisalign's more expensive, $5,000, $6,000. And so if you're saying, hey, listen, I'll be able to bring, one patient in for you every single day, up to me to close, but I'll be able to get one extra patient in for you to see every day. And, the cost for them to come in is $20, $30. Well, you can see where my profit margin's at. You can see that that's bringing me value. We focus on the money because it's all marketing and how much money you have to spend and how much money you earn. But I think a big thing too is that not every doctor thinks that way. I know that, like, how do we understand the finances, the scale, what's the metrics? They want to know the numbers of success, but not always the financial success. Sometimes it's about bringing better value as well.
What have you found is the best way to find that out? So are there any questions you should be asking? Are there any clues? Like when you're coming into an office, how do you know what to pitch the doctor? Is it going to be, new revenue? Is it number of patients? Like, how do you know what to do there?
So if you're talking about marketing and you're doing a pay-per-click ad spend, you might come into a doctor's office and say you get past, you're finally talking to the doctor and the office manager, and you're like, listen, guys, I believe that I can do this for you. Would you find that of value if I could bring in more patients for you to help? Like, would you want more patients? And when you ask if they want more patients, like, it's like, yeah, like I'm just trying to grow my practice. I'm trying to grow my business. I'm trying to help more people. It's like, do you want to help more people or, do you want to make more money? Kind of asking this. Really, in our business, that's the same thing in my mind. I think that the more people you help, the more money you make, kind of similar to a lot of businesses. But one of the big things is you can ask that question both those ways. And then depending on which one they jump on, do you want to help more people? Yes, that's exactly what I do. The mission of our practice is to help every single person in our community. I want everybody in our community to know who we are. Okay, great. We can help you do that. And then focus more on the value add and the fact that they're helping people. And if you ask the next question and say, you know what would you think if I could tell you that we could bring in, $20,000 more revenue for you every single month? Would that be something you're interested in? Oh my God, yeah, we've been struggling in revenue. If they latch onto the financial aspect, then go down that path. You talk to me, I'll tell you right away, listen, okay, I'm sure your product works, right? We'll figure that out. Assume the product works in a way. What are the numbers? That's what I'll say to people. I'm a financial guy. I'm like, what are the numbers? How much does it cost? How many patients am I going to do? How many patients are you going to get in here? What's the ratio? Like, I'm always focused on that, because when it comes to the business side, I put my business brain on, and that's my switch. Not every doctor's like that. Sometimes they're still focused on what's the value to the patient. Can I help more people? So I think if you ask those two questions, you'll kind of get a hint.
All right, that's awesome. Some other people have questions too. Flint Spark Media said, and actually I had this question too. Is it worth cold calling first to schedule a meeting or talk to the assistant? Like, basically, I guess the question is, can you do anything besides just walk into these doctors' offices? Can you cold call first and then show up with food once you find out they're into that? Like, what have you found there?
Absolutely, you can cold call. And I think that there's a lot of power in that. I just think you're gonna hit the receptionist, who's first gonna be like, okay, you're not a patient. They might say, hey, we've got time this morning, or we've got time this afternoon. They might give you a better window for an idea of when you can go visit. I don't say that you can't cold call, but don't expect to get the doctor on the phone when you cold call.
That's interesting. So I used to do this when I was selling to restaurants. Like the very first company I started, I would call them and I would ask, hey, first I would look up the owner's name and I'd be like, hey, is Mike in today? And then they'd say, yeah, he's in at 1. And then I'd come in after 1. Like, that's the only way I used cold calls. I wasn't using it to book meetings or anything. Sounds like
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to ask this question exactly as he asked it, because I want to get your read on the question too. Mario McCann says, what's the value ladder of services in your practice?
The value ladder of services from like what I sell, or like from which perspective?
Mario, you see how confused he is, man? This is what you're doing to your clients. I think the question is like, what do you kind of value? I'm going to skip that question.
Yeah, I think what you mentioned though really quickly is what kind of questions he's asking us. If he's asking the doctor that, or as a like, what's the value ladder? They're gonna look at you like that. Like, wait, what do you mean?
Yeah, that's why I wanted to ask you the question like that.
and communication's so important. We're talking about understanding what the doctor values, worth money or time, or patient value. Does it make my patient services better? And so communicating that is really important.
That's interesting. All right. Larry Henson seems to be going really in depth. What's the percentage of patients that are cash versus insurance when it comes to dentists that you've seen?
It really depends on the area. I've got some areas where, we're 90% insurance. And then I've got some of the like just more affluent areas that might be 30 to 40% cash pay. But everybody's got insurance. And so with orthodontics specifically.
Yeah. So it sounds like it depends a lot on the doctor's office.
In location, right? Like which area are you in? So if you're in a really high socioeconomic area, you're probably going to have more cash patients because they have the cash, and insurance doesn't always cover the nice veneers that you want, right? Like they don't cover the $20,000 worth of work that you want to do. So they have to pay cash. So when you're marketing, you should know that as well. Like if you go into a kind of a lower socioeconomic area, you're going to end up running into people who, they're heavy HMO plans, maybe even Medi-Cal. We take Medi-Cal in some of the offices that I work at, which is a government based insurance. And I mean, there's a lot of reasons we take it. One, because even if they don't qualify for it, they'll end up paying cash. So, or they finance it.
Interesting. I have two people here asking, Carlos Garcia and Mario McCann again. They're both asking about retainers. So are all the marketing services that you buy, are they like pay per lead, get one client, you pay them $20, or are you paying retainers for anyone? Have you seen that work? Like what sort of retainers have you found that dentists are willing to pay for marketing services?
That's so funny. I thought you were talking about orthodontic retainers for a second there, and I was like, wait, what?
Dude, different industries.
That's a really specific question.
Different words, different industries. I don't even know what that is.
Yeah. It's what holds your teeth straight. So basically, yeah. When it comes to, it's usually like you might pay a monthly spend. We might say, all right, we're going to spend $1,000 a month towards this service. And you spend the $1,000 a month. They do their thing on the back end for pay-per-clicks. So it's kind of like just a monthly fee.
Most dentists are fine paying a monthly retainer easily.
So yeah, if you're bringing in the value, for sure. I think one of the things I was gonna say is that you can't really pay per patient. That's technically illegal. It's called fee splitting. So, like you can't be like, I'm gonna give you $100 and you give me this one patient. That's illegal. But if I'm paying you for a service, which is marketing my practice, and I pay you $1,000 a month to do that, then and that ends up getting me patients in. It's just not per patient. You can't do that.
Cool. Then what I would do, Mario, to answer your question is price based on the value you deliver. So figure out what a dentist makes from a patient, figure out how many patients you can bring them on average, and then try to figure out your pricing in there. I usually do a 10x type of thing. So if you make them $1,000, charge them $100 sort of thing. David Lux, how would you approach selling web design for dentists? Would you lead with it or use it more as a profit maximizer once they are your client?
What's his other service that he's going to be using as their client?
Let's assume it's marketing services or SEO.
Marketing
or
service.
PPC.
Yeah. I mean, we all know the power of having a great website, especially mobile. We also know that some dentists, I mean, they're just not tech savvy. So depending on what you're going for, like like I said, though, you got to know your dentist. One of my friends, multi-million-dollar practice, no marketing, website's super simple. It basically leads to a phone number, get the patient in on the phone. I think that having a good mobile-friendly website can only enhance it, as well as if you're also doing the SEO, if you're doing pay-per-click and they're going to this website, you want to make sure it's super easy to find. I think that you look at what the dentist, what they have, what's their website look like right now. If it looks like crap, it's 10 years old, it's running off of like Microsoft 97, whatever, right? Like it looks like shit, then change it and help bring them more value. Also, I would heavily focus on mobile because mobile is where everybody's on. You know, everybody's on mobile these days.
Yeah, and I was kicking around this idea a little while ago, which was the people with shitty websites at this point, 2018, they know the value and they just don't want to change. But I think that might be wrong. They might just be very hard to reach. Nobody's put in the time to actually find these dentists.
And it might not actually matter. You know, a lot of these dentist practices grow word of mouth. And that's like the biggest growth factor for the ones that aren't heavily in marketing and don't have the revamped websites. They might not care because they're like, my practice is still growing. I've still got patients coming in, new patients coming in because they do such a great job and they're so friendly. The community knows about them and word of mouth grows it. But then you can say like, hey, this is how we can maximize it. So when other people, because like, let's take a look at things like Yelp. You know, that one platform is huge for ratings and reviews. You got Google reviews as well. But these things, every time you type in the doctor's name, you'll see like what their rating is or the office, or you type in dentist right now, you'll see all the top dentists around you. So I might not say necessarily you want to have a good website, but focus on those reviews because that's what's going to get people right at the top to be like, oh, this guy's better. This guy's got 4.9 stars. This guy's got 4.2.
Those directories. And I guess that's true for all local business. Because I'm not even seeing, I was thinking ZocDoc at first, but you don't even see ZocDoc when you search Google for anything like that. So it really is just Yelp. It's Google Places, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Very cool. Awesome. Guys, any other questions you have? We'll wait a second.
Sure. And in the meantime, I think that like you want to focus on a couple of things as you're going to pitch a doctor. Is first, you want to know who the doctor is first and foremost, like what drives them, and ask questions. We ask questions about finances. We ask questions about whether they're value driven, and remember, like you got to be super friendly as you go through the process so you can get to the doctor, but know who you are. And then of course you got to know your product, right? If you're sitting there and you're saying like, oh, I'm going to be able to bring you all these people into the practice pay per click, like some numbers. If you haven't got any of that stuff already, then offer to do a free trial, right? But listen, I won't charge you for the first month and I'll just show you the results. And then the third thing is, you know, also know when they're ready to buy. I think a lot of people keep on talking, and instead of like, when I'm like, yeah, you know what? Let's do that. I want that product. Let's go. Like redesign my website, done deal. No one to shut up and just close the deal kind of thing. Some people, like I get salespeople in a lot where they just keep talking and you're like, man, you know what? And the more you talk, the less I'm interested, actually. I'm not sure. Like, oh, now that you say that, I don't know if that's really going to work for me. So just kind of knowing when to stop too.
Awesome. All right. Corey, where do you want people to go after watching this video, this webinar recording?
You know, honestly, just per podcast. We're on iTunes, Spotify, and revamping the YouTube channel to be able to release a bunch of episodes there. unleashsuccess.com, or you can reach out to me on Instagram at Corpodian.
Awesome. I think the best first episode for them to listen to is the one with me. If that's out, I don't know if that's out.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's such a good tactic to think about, like, doctors, and because we focus so hard on cold emailing and sales, and to kind of be able to say, like, all right, this is a different approach. Now you got different weapons in your tool belt.
That's all it is. It's just gathering info, gathering as much
Absolutely.
data as possible. Thanks for watching the video. I'll put links down below to Corey's podcast, Unleashed Success. He does video interviews on YouTube, and he also has a podcast. It's a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of really big names. And I was on the show a few months ago. I do not know if that episode is out. If it is, we will link down below. Thanks for watching the video. Subscribe if you haven't already. Like it if you haven't liked it. Leave a comment down below. Do you have any other niches that you are wondering about? For instance, this was selling to doctors and dentists. Maybe you want to sell to architects. Just threw that out there randomly. Let me know down in the comments. Thanks. I'm Alex Berman, and thank you for watching.